on this day before Valentine's Day. Yeah, I'm just saying that so, guys, you still have a chance to, get by the MAPCO and pick up some flowers and make arrangements.
Crap. Yeah. It's that time of year already, huh?
It is. We are going to spend some time here talking about balloons. And I'm going to tell you that I spent an inordinate amount of time today doing research about everything that has been said and everything that the military says, everything that's coming out of the White House, everything that's come from the generals at the Pentagon, everything that's come from the Secretary of Defense. And I think if you bear with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to help clarify what's going on in a way that you have not had it clarified before. I think I've got a bead on this thing. There is so much information that we don't know, but I can tell you, I'm basing a lot of this on you. If you've been a long time listener to the show, you know it's Wilson's first law of government, and here it is: government does not act. Government reacts. And then when government reacts to something because, oh my gosh, something has happened, and oh my gosh, people are upset, and oh, we got to give them answers, and we gotta hold on to our phony baloney job.
We've got to protect our phony baloney job, gentlemen. We must do something about this immediately.
Well, in the process of reacting, what they generally do is they overreact. So government doesn't act. It reacts, and then when it starts to react, it generally moves into the area of the realm of overreacting pretty quickly. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 or 7 sound bites here, and I'm going to wend my way through them. And as we get through them, I think you and I are going to come to a conclusion about what this is and what it is not. Maybe not have an absolute answer, but a better sense overall of what's going on here. First of all, this comes from John Kirby today at the White House briefing. He wants everybody to know you don't need to be thinking about aliens.
I don't think the American people need to worry about aliens with respect to these craft, period. I don't think there's any more that needs to be said there.
So not an alien.
Sounded like there were some aliens behind John talking.
Yeah, I know that was just a bad clip, but I have to run that. That's the only one that's like that. Not an alien. It's now, and that's not to say that there aren't things out there that the government doesn't understand yet in the form of unidentified aerial phenomenon. That's not what we seem to be dealing with here. There's still things they don't understand, things that our Navy pilots have seen and tried to chase, and they go very fast. These are not them. So he says, I don't think you need to think about aliens here. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, just a short while ago, getting ready to go back, just landed in Brussels for a big meeting of military and NATO leaders. And this is what he had to say about the whole situation.
I want to be clear. The 3 objects taken down this weekend are very different from what we were talking about last week.
Yes.
We knew exactly what that was, a PRC surveillance balloon. And as we have said, we do not assess that the recent objects pose any direct threat to the people on the ground, and we will continue to focus on confirming their nature and purpose. We've not recovered any debris from the 3 most recent shootdowns. Our policy hasn't changed. We will evaluate each and every event on its own merits, and we'll make decisions based upon the recommendations of the NORTHCOM NORAD commander, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and they'll make recommendations to me, and I'll evaluate and make recommendations to the President. Again, these 3 events each of them presented a risk to safety of flight. And we don't know if they were actually collecting intelligence, but because of the route that they took, out of an abundance of caution, we want to make sure that we have the ability to examine what these things are and potentially what they were doing.
All right, so just let me decipher all that. I mean, first thing he says is the Chinese spy balloon thing that we shot down off the coast of Carolinas is a different category from the other things that have been shot down. 3 other things have been shot down, but it is very much different than the spy balloon. The spy balloon is in a category unto its own. And we know that it was a surveillance balloon, and we know that as they are able to dredge up all of the pieces from the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, that they're going to get a better sense of what that balloon was doing. But it was a surveillance balloon. There's no doubt it was a surveillance balloon. These other things, not so much. They're very different, okay? Let's talk for a moment, though, what we're knowing about that first balloon, because that's the one we ought to be most concerned about, and I'll explain why as we go along.
We were able to determine that China has a high-altitude balloon program for intelligence collection that's connected to the People's Liberation Army. It was operating during the previous administration, but they did not detect it. We detected it.
Hold on there. I just have to stop that for a moment. Kirby did not detect this. President Biden did not detect this. The intelligence community detected it. Or with the military, or NORAD, or somebody. But I mean, when we're talking about who detected it, it was part of our military intelligence complex. They detected it, and they figured it out. And by the way, it's the same people that are there now, with the exception of a few people in leadership, that was there during the Trump years. And this isn't an administration victory. This is the military and the intelligence community going back and looking at old data and deciding, you know what, we missed some stuff back then, and I'm going to explain why they missed it in just a moment. But, Kirby tries to make it political, saying, we found it. They didn't find it. We found it, which is, I want to tell you right now, that is beneath him, and it's really just BS.
It was operating during the previous administration, but they did not detect it. We detected it. We tracked it, and we have been carefully studying it to learn as much as we can. We know that these PRC surveillance balloons have crossed over dozens of countries on multiple continents around the world, including some of our closest allies and partners. We assessed that at this time, these balloons have provided limited additive capabilities to the PRC's other intelligence platforms used over the United States. But in the future, if the PRC continues to advance this technology, it certainly could become more valuable to them.
So remember, we're talking about the first balloon, the first big Chinese spy balloon, which is different from the others. Yes, it was a spy balloon. Yes, they have flown these balloons over the United States in the past, I think over southern Texas, over the peninsula of Florida, maybe over Hawaii, and they're flying them all over the world, quite frankly. So they do add something, they say, and we're going to be studying that more after we pull this one up off the Atlantic Ocean. All right, so that's the big one we should be concerned about. That's the one we should be watching. What about these other 3 that have been shot down over the weekend? Boom, boom, boom. Let's see what we can figure out about that. Kirby says that the military and our NORAD people, after the Chinese balloon was spotted and became a thing, they adjusted the radar. This is very important to the story going forward. They adjusted the radar. Listen, here he goes.
In light of the Chinese balloon program and this recent incursion into our airspace, the United States and Canada, through NORAD, have been more closely scrutinizing that airspace, including enhancing our radar capabilities, which, as the commander of NORTHCOM and NORAD, General Van Herk, said just last night, may at least partially explain the increase in the objects that have been detected.
Hold on a minute. That is a key moment. Okay, they adjusted the radar. And to give you a little background here, what I found out is when you have a radar that's scanning the skies, and a NORAD radar specifically, it's looking for a threat to the mainland. What are the threats that they have been looking for all these many years? Fast-moving objects, okay? Like military jets, bombers, missiles, okay? So they're out there scanning the skies for anything that's moving fast. And what they do is they filter out a lot of other stuff that's out there that doesn't meet that criteria. Slow-moving objects are not something that they have been scanning for. Their radar picked it up, but they weren't looking at it because it didn't fit the parameter of the things that they wanted to see. And so they made the adjustment to say, we're going to start looking for slower moving objects. And that's when I think they went back and found, hey, looking at some of this old radar data, looks like they flew a balloon over South Texas. Looked like they blew a balloon over, a big one over the peninsula of Florida and maybe over Hawaii. That's when they found it. When they made the adjustment, they figured out we're looking for the wrong thing in this particular case. So they made the adjustments. And here you hear Kirby say, you know what, here's the deal. Once we made these adjustments, well, we're starting to see things. And I guess the thing is, as the general has said, yeah, we're seeing things because we're looking for things that we weren't looking for before, and we're finding them.
Including enhancing our radar capabilities, which, as the commander of NORTHCOM and NORAD, General Van Herk, said just last night, may at least partially explain the increase in the objects that have been detected. Slow-moving objects at high altitude with a small radar cross-section are difficult to detect on radar. Even objects the size of the Chinese spy balloon, which had a payload the size of roughly 3 school buses, were not picked up by previous administrations or other countries.
Even that big balloon was not picked up by NORAD radar because they weren't looking for something moving that slow. It had a small radar cross-section, and it was moving very slow, and the computers were filtering all that data out. Kirby put it another way. We are probably seeing more balloons in the sky now because that's what we're looking for.
One of the reasons that we think we're seeing more is because we're looking for more. As you heard General Van Herk mention last night, they have modified the filters and the gains, as we call it, of the radar capabilities to look more discreetly at high altitude, small radar cross section, and low speed objects. And so if you do that, anybody that's operated a radar will know you can set the parameters, and if you set the parameters in such a way that to look for a certain something, it's more likely that you're going to find a certain
Well, there you go. Yeah, you're going to see more of these things because that all of a sudden now we are looking for them in a way we did not look for them before. All right, and then, again, Kirby makes the point that the last 3 are different from the big Chinese spy balloon that was shot down over the Carolinas.
Because we have not yet been able to definitively assess what these most recent objects are, we acted out of an abundance of caution to protect the security, our interest, and flight safety. As we have said, we do not assess that these most recent objects posed any direct threat to people on the ground, and we are laser focused on confirming their nature and purpose, including through intensive efforts to collect debris in the remote locations where they have fallen.
Mm-hmm.
In each instance, we have followed the same basic course. We assessed whether they posed any kinetic threat to people on the ground. They did not.
Now, kinetic threat means could they attack us? Could they drop a bomb? Could they do something that would, harm us? No. And they said, no, these do not seem capable of that.
We assessed whether they were sending any communication signals. We detected none.
See, unlike the big Chinese spy balloon, these latest balloons, the last 3, didn't apparently have any kind of signals emanating from them. So, they weren't apparently collecting data and sending it on.
We looked to see whether they were maneuvering or had any propulsion capabilities. We saw no signs of that.
See, unlike the Chinese balloon, which could maneuver, these other balloons were thought to just be floating along through the atmosphere, aloft on the prevailing winds.
And we made sure to determine whether or not they were manned. They were not. We did, however, assess that their altitudes were considerably lower than the Chinese high-altitude balloon and did pose a threat to civilian commercial air traffic. And while we have no specific reason to suspect that they were conducting surveillance of any kind, we couldn't rule that out. That is why the President, at the recommendation of the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the NORTHCOM NORAD commander, gave the order to shoot them down.
All right, so just to recap here, the spy balloon, different. 3 balloons, yeah, they were small. Well, they're not actually, they call them objects. They don't call them balloons, and I'll get into that in a moment. What were they? What were they doing? Well, they're not aliens. We know that. They say, they don't think it's that kind of UAP. What they're saying is that, you know, they didn't seem to be any threat. They were, and the main reason we shot them down and the justification for shooting them down is that they were in commercial airspace and we didn't want a plane running into them. That's the main reason they were shot down. So, you know, one of these things is not like the other. The Chinese spy balloon is different than these other three smaller things that have been seen. Each of them described in a different way. One cylindrical. One is said to have been, by one observer, it was octagonal. It had 8 sides to it. And by the way, that one, they asked some questions about that in the briefing on Sunday. And there was this little interesting bit of information that came out of that.
I believe this is the first time within United States of America airspace that NORAD or United States Northern Command has taken kinetic action against an airborne object. So I'm not going to categorize them as balloons. We're calling them objects for a reason. Certainly the event off the South Carolina coast for the Chinese spy balloon, that was clearly a balloon. These are objects. I am not able to categorize how they stay aloft. It could be a gaseous type of balloon inside a structure, or it could be some type of a propulsion system. But clearly, they're able to stay aloft. I would be hesitant to and urge you not to attribute it to any specific country. We don't know. That's why it's so critical to get our hands on these so that we can further assess and analyze what they are. And
they admit that, you know, a lot of different companies around the world use balloons for research. Some of it scientific, and some of it private data. I don't know what they're doing with them, but they do send up balloons. I don't think these last 3 were much at all. Somebody wrote an article in the Washington Examiner. Shadow boxing with sky trash. Is that what we're dealing with here? So much mystery surrounds these 3 unidentified floating objects downed by U.S. fighter jets over the past 3 days. They haven't ruled anything out. Based on the PLAF data, they shot them down because they were in flight. They were in the area of commercial flight. But they ask, is this a threat or is it sky trash? What we're learning is that until very recently, the U.S. basically ignored small objects that seemed to pose no threat. We're not filtering out slow-moving objects as usual, so now that we are looking for them, we find them. More in just a moment, including the fact that we're going to open the phones and let you have your say at 615-737-9986 after the news. It's 24 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Comes to large home repairs, a lot of times homeowners pretend they don't see the warning signs. They're afraid of what they might find, especially when you're talking about issues that have to do with waterproofing or foundation repair. What you need is to call somebody who's going to give it to you straight, help you understand what's happening. That's United Structural Systems. For my money, 23,000 satisfied residential customers. And here's what happens. They will come out to your house, they'll assess the situation, they'll tell you what they can do, and when it's time for you to make your decision, if you go forward, you won't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. Financing is available, lifetime warranties are guaranteed for the life of the home. USS takes the stress out of home repair. They guarantee their best at USS. Here's what you do. It's USS serving Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky and Northern Alabama. Online for more information at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-227-2275. All right, so to recap what I've been trying to say here over the first half hour, I think the Chinese spy balloon is real, and that's something we need to be very concerned about. I think the last three, maybe not so much of a thing. It could be, that they're just what they call sky trash, things that have been floating around our atmosphere for a while, because there are many people who do put up small balloons and floating objects. I have a suspicion that at least one of these things is going to turn out to be something that some good old boys launched. And they're just chuckling over the fact that we spent $350,000 in the form of an AIM missile to shoot down something, and we're spending millions of dollars to recover debris over something that they built in their garage, and they're just having a great old time looking at this and laughing about that. But one way or the other, I don't think it's the same kind of thing as we saw with the balloon. That's my take on it. And I try to back it up with all the information that is available out there. But maybe you have a different opinion. Maybe you want to point out, it's something where you think I'm wrong. Maybe you see an error in my thinking. Whatever. Phone lines are open at 615-737-9986. Nothing but your calls right after the news at 3:30 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. When's the last time you went to Legend Steakhouse? I mean, I'm telling you, if you're thinking about going out for dinner tonight, you'll get a good steak over there at Legend Steakhouse. All you got to do is just check the legendsteakhouse.com for locations and find a good place. But I want you to think about them in a different way. How about going there for lunch? A meat and two situation, one meat, two country cooked vegetables or casseroles, served with cornbread muffins and yeast rolls, fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, maybe even some slow-cooked pot roast gravy. And when it comes to the extras, the sides, 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. Casserole, turnip, broccoli casserole, greens, turnip greens. We got bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes. I mean, that kind of stuff. We're basically talking about good home-cooked meals here. In fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed her recipe book some 30 years ago and he just never got around to giving it back. Legend Steakhouse, multiple locations across Middle Tennessee, good food at a fair price. If you're in Davidson County, check out their Smyrna location just off Elmaville Road, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Legend Steakhouse, go to legendsteakhouse.com for locations and enjoy a Tennessee company that's been around for some 34 years. You're going to love your visit to Legend Steakhouse. It's 38 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson. I've been talking about the balloons, and if you heard my last half hour, you know that I've come to the conclusion that the Chinese spy balloon, real, something we should be concerned about, something that we should be following up on. But I think these other three are going to turn out, in the grand scheme of things, to not be much. And, you know, when you start looking for a certain thing, isn't it interesting that you find it? And that's what I think has happened. The military adjusted their radar. Now they're looking for slow-moving objects. And all of a sudden, well, I'll be gosh, there's a bunch of them up there. Maybe we ought to investigate these. But in the grand scheme of things, they seem to be very different than the Chinese spy balloon. And I think ultimately they'll be found to be not much. And I also think this. I think that the White House is taking full advantage of the fact that people are focused on the balloons. to the point where they're not asking questions in the White House briefing room now about classified documents or Hunter Biden's laptop or whatever it is. And I think they like that right now. Today, after John Kirby got through briefing about the balloons, Karine said, "I'll see you tomorrow." And he turned around and left and didn't answer any other questions. Tells you a little something, doesn't it? But what do you think? 615-737-9986. You've gotten my take on it. I want to hear exactly what you think about all this. Maybe you see a weakness in my argument. Maybe you have another alternative idea. Maybe you got a question. Eric in White House. Eric, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive.
Good afternoon, Brian. How are you, sir?
Fine. What do you think?
Well, the 3 balloons or whatever additional balloons notwithstanding, my thoughts, and I haven't heard anyone speak on it, is the original balloon and maybe some others with all this radar and whatnot and payload. What are the chances that they're not doing mock runs to see maybe where and when and how and timing of our responses if they were to have multiples and then maybe an EMP? Because I don't know that EMPs are very well or easily launched from an aircraft flying at a high speed, but rather something that's more isolated and can send out more of an even pulse while not.
Well, there have been studies. There have been studies that suggest that the Chinese might consider, and this is an analysis on our side, might consider balloons as a delivery device for EMPs. But I think in this particular case, it was like they found a little sort of kink in our system. We're not looking for slow-moving objects. Our radars were not set to catch them. And so they could slip something, instead of sending over a plane, they could send over a balloon to get the same thing done. And we apparently missed it about the first 3 or 4 times it happened because we weren't looking. Our radar wasn't set to show us, hey, look at this. Oh, look at this. It's a slow-moving balloon. We need to be watching it. They were that kind of stuff was dialed out of the system. I think, and I think they realized, hey, this is a neat little thing. We can slip some balloons in there and get all kinds of data, and they're not even going to see us. And that's really what was going on. That's what they admitted today has happened with the earlier balloon flights. They hadn't been picked up because we didn't have systems that were built to find them and see balloons, or at least they weren't dialed up the right way. Larry in Clarksville, you're up next on the drive. Hello, Larry. You're on with Brian on the drive.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my call. And I'm just going to warn you, I'm trying to duct tape my head right now. One thing that I will agree that the Pentagon is saying that is true is that, yes, the radar, well, so to speak, the radar can be adjusted. The radar is not adjusted. It's whoever is monitoring it can set whatever they want to see. That being said, and I worked for NORAD, I worked for Tactical Air Command, Air Defense Command, Alaskan Air Command, and Air Training Command. I'm not the smartest listener on this station by far, but I know what I know. And I'm telling you, I even sent you a message, I don't know if you got it. I knew 2 days before it was announced that U-2s were following that first darn balloon from the time it left its airspace. And I truly believe that was a Chinese spy balloon. But I also believe that these others that have been sent up are, obviously just now noticed because we've changed our, settings that they've been detected and we've shot them down. Brian, there's not been a darn missile or a bomb that has been launched from an aircraft or a jet that has not had a high-resolution camera on it in 25 years, maybe 30 years.
That's right. So we should be able to see. Yeah, we ought to have the gun cameras at the very least.
Oh, well, and I even heard a lieutenant colonel say Saturday morning who used to work for the Pentagon. I'm not going to mention his name, but he said it over the air. out of a station in D.C. that our jets have laser capabilities that could have hit any one of these darn balloons and just poked small holes in them, and they would have just dropped almost straight down.
All right. Well, I don't know about what our capabilities are, but I know this: they have every aircraft that has ever been sent up has a gun camera where they can get some kind of video back of the thing. And where are those gun cameras? But I don't. Again, I think you're sort of backing up what I was saying. The spy balloon was different. They started to pick up on the spy balloons, and then they were on to that one, I think, long before it got to U.S. airspace. I think you're right about that. But I think the last three are really just examples of what happens when you start looking for something in a way you were not looking before. And the adjustments can be made to the radar to say, okay, now we're going to look for slow-moving objects. Now we're going to be looking for smaller objects. Now we're going to be looking at different altitudes and all. Son of a gun. Look at what we found when we started looking for things that we had not been looking for before. They were there. I don't think that I think that you're ultimately going to find that these last three are likely not Chinese. So mark my word, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm happy to say that I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be. Mark and Dixon. Mark, you're up on the drive. What do you think this is all about, Mark? What's your take on it?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I think they've had plenty of time to tell us whatever it is, and they don't want to tell us for some reason.
You know what I think it is? I think they like dragging this out. I think they like dragging it out right now at the Biden White House, because we're all talking about balloons and not talking about Hunter Biden, and we're not talking about classified documents, and Karine is not having to answer hard questions. And I think that they're happy to have the distraction. Now, that's not to say that the Chinese spy balloon is not a serious matter. It is. We need to be on that. But I think these other things are not going to turn out ultimately to be all that much. And I think at the end of the day, it's a nice diversion for them, because there are other things that reporters would be asking if they weren't asking about the balloons. And that's not to say that, well, why are you talking about it? Well, I'm talking about it because I'm trying to bring some clarity to what I think is going on here. And believe me, if anybody knows this show, they know one of the hallmarks is when everybody is looking at a certain bright, shiny thing, I'm always scanning for what's the thing that they don't want us to be looking at. They're not getting anything past us. If there's stuff that needs to be talked about, we're going to talk about it over the course of 4 hours. But I do believe there is a thing. Hey, look, shiny balloons. Oh, we shot down a balloon, spent $350,000. We're going to spend millions more to pick up something that I think is going to turn out to be, at the end of the day, not much. Sound and fury. I honestly do believe, I believe at some point, and when the history of this thing is all finally known and told, that we're going to find that, okay, the Chinese spy balloon was fun and it was interesting and the whole world was focused on it. And you know what? It turned out to be a thing, and we watched it and people were fascinated and riveted. And I think there's some good old boys that let's send up our balloon and see what happens. I think there's some old boys in a garage who've sent up balloons, and we're going to spend millions to find out that some of these things were built by guys in garages, and they're just chuckling and laughing somewhere over the fact that we spent a lot of money to shoot down something they built in their garage. I think honestly we may find that at some point. But let's see. David in Hendersonville. David, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you think, David?
Brian, how you doing today?
Good. What's up?
China, I don't, he kept saying he wanted to see pictures. I don't want to see pictures. These jets out there, they have videos cameras in them.
Right.
So they can see what they see. They got close enough to know that it was unmanned. They know what it is. They're not telling us. Now, as far as China goes, they've talked about the EMPs.
Right.
Well, now, what if they take one of these balloons? They're testing it now. What if they take one of these balloons and they put something in it, knowing now that we're going to shoot it down, and they put it where they need to put it in the middle of the country, and we shoot it down? We're actually the ones setting it off. So
Well,
they set it up.
I don't know. You could look at that. I don't think that this is. I don't think that is a likely outcome. I think the Chinese found a loophole, if it were, in NORAD, a little something that was something they could exploit. We can send a balloon, and it'll go right through NORAD's defenses. They won't even see it because it's not something they're looking for. But that would be an act of war, and we'd be on. So I don't know. Anything is possible. I just think it's fascinating that we spend millions and billions of dollars to make sure that we are watching the airspace over Canada and over the northern part of our country so that we can detect incoming threats. And this threat slipped right through for a long time. No telling how long, because it wasn't something we were looking for. It's bizarro. It's 3:50 now on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
All right, running very quickly at the looking at the markets. Dow Jones Industrials up 376 points. S&P is up 46. NASDAQ is up 173. All indices are bright green today. Brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Learn more at beaconcm.com. Coming up, everybody's got an opinion about the Super Bowl. I'll give you mine. And we'll talk about what's happening in the swamp and the 2024 race, how that's shaping up. It's all straight ahead on The Drive. Now, let me tell you about the folks over at Eurofix. You know, we have some exciting news. Many of you have lived here a long time. You know that Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee. It's the place you go to get your European car repair. So for some 24 years, you've watched them grow. Well, here is something exciting. We are now proud to announce the 5th location of Eurofix in Mount Juliet. That's right, Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now in Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer and watching them grow to 5 locations where they repair thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call this number, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. 6 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk. Hey, everybody. It's Monday. It's the 13th day of February. Guys, a little heads up. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. You know, you still have time to swing by the Mapco and, you know, get some of those Mapco flowers and maybe I think they have, or maybe those little boxes with the candy hearts that have little words written on them. Those are always a big hit.
Oh yeah, that'll keep you out of the doghouse.
And so you still got time to do all that.
Yeah.
Listen to the drive on the air, or you can listen to Super Talk live, or watch it actually on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And there you have it. We'd love to have you watch us or listen to us. We don't really care one way or the other, just a lot of different ways where you can listen to what we do here on Super Talk. Well, it was the Super Bowl. And I'm just going to say this right offhand. I put out a little thing yesterday after the halftime show saying, another sweet, clean, wholesome halftime show. And I got, like, everybody said, oh my gosh, everybody had an opinion about it. I mean, strong opinion about Rihanna's halftime show. And I was quite surprised at just how passionately people disliked it. But if you have a thought about that, 615-737-9986. I have other things I want to talk about with regard to the Super Bowl, but with the time that we have remaining, we'll take some of your calls about it, 615-737-9986. My take on it, Chris, and you first of all, full disclosure, you told me during the commercial break, I didn't know this, that you didn't watch the game.
Yeah, I did not see 1 second of any of the broadcast at all. Not 1 second. I just chose not to. I'm not a big NFL fan. So I just said, well, I'd rather watch other things. It was on the TV upstairs. I could hear, some of the play calling, and then my son yelling. He was watching it. But the wife and I, we were downstairs watching Netflix or something. So I have no clue. I mean, I know what happened, but I didn't see any of the performances, any of the commercials.
Invest,
nothing.
I don't blame you. Yeah. Well, let me just say that as a football game, it was a pretty good game. And that's not always true when it comes to Super Bowl games. Sometimes the football is, a little one-sided. This was a pretty good competitive game. A bit of controversy at the end when I guess it was James Bradbury was slapped with a holding call. He plays for the Eagles, and that was seen as a particularly egregious call with just, about 2 minutes left in the game, sort of changed the whole nature of the game. And a lot of people in Philly are upset. Oh, well, that doesn't break my heart. I will tell you that I thought, from my sense of it, that Chris Stapleton set just the right tone with the national anthem. It was him. I didn't know how he would do this. Would he do it with a band? Would he? It was very simple. Him, an electric guitar, and a microphone. And he sang it in the style that you'd expect Chris Stapleton to sing it in. But I tell you, it was there wasn't a dry eye in my house, and there wasn't a dry eye on the field if you saw some of the coverage. I mean, people were just brought to tears by this rendition of the national anthem. And then the jets flew over, and by the way, woke. All of the pilots were female, but still, what a great rendition by Chris Stapleton, who said early on, at one point in his career, he said he would never sing the national anthem unless it was at the Super Bowl. And he said, I wasn't really asking for an invitation. It's just that it's a very difficult song to sing. And he said he didn't want to try to do it. He said it can be really messed up. So if he was going to do it, it's going to be for all the marbles at the Super Bowl, or it wasn't going to be at all.
You know, I had no doubts that if someone could pull it off, it would be him. I mean, that boy can sing. That's just a fact.
I'm telling you, I looked around the room. We had, and misty eyes, and then you saw I guess it was a coach from the Eagles.
Yeah,
just literally just bawling.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah,
I have that reaction almost any time I hear the national anthem. I don't know why. I guess I'm just an old softy, but I get goosebumps when I hear it, and when I hear somebody do it particularly well, it just I have an emotional reaction.
Yeah, and especially in an environment like that, I could imagine being in that stadium with all those tens of thousands of people around you and all of the pomp and circumstance. Yeah, that would have been extremely emotional, I'm sure, to be there.
Yeah. They also played, because they're woke, the Black National Anthem at the Super Bowl, and it's the third year. It's called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And I don't know. Do we need a Black National Anthem? I guess apparently we do. Carrie Lake was there, who ran for governor in Arizona, and she refused to stand. Others chose to stand. There was also a performance of America the Beautiful as part of the opening ceremonies. Everything has to be political. Everything has to turn into it. Why can't we just sing the national anthem and play the football game? I don't understand why. And then there was the halftime show, which I don't know how to describe this. Rihanna in red and by a whole, accompanied by and she was floating around the arena on this platform, and on the ground, I can only describe them as sexually charged Oompa Loompas.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take a look then, I guess.
I mean, that's how I would describe them. And it was really quite the thing. And again, if anybody who is shocked and appalled by the lyrics that were sung, some people said they had a hard time understanding the words. I think that was by design. On my TV, I always have the words playing out because I sometimes leave the TV down. I still want to know what's being said.
Yeah.
So I saw the words, and I'm telling you. But are you shocked, stunned, and amazed that in a Rihanna song there were lyrics that you might find objectionable and not really suitable for a family environment? I certainly did not think it was suitable for a family environment. And to watch her, dance around with these Oompa Loompas in a very sexually charged way. There was the obligatory, apparently, crotch grab at one point where, do we really need to see that on nationwide TV? And I mean, I'm telling you, people had a very vitriolic and very sort of harsh assessment of the halftime show. By the way, I'm very anxious to hear what you thought about the halftime show. 615-737-9986, because I'm telling you, on social media, it just lit up. Everybody had an opinion, and not many of them were kind. Apparently, yes, the answer to the burning question is Rihanna is apparently pregnant.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Apparently, where people say, well, has she gained weight or is she pregnant again? But apparently she is pregnant, and that explains that.
You know what all the dancers look like to me? They look like a bunch of tissues blowing in the wind. Fluffy little tissues.
Yeah, I don't know. I really can't tell you what I thought about. I mean, I couldn't decide what they were, except they looked like Oompa Loompas to me. Okay, a couple calls coming in. We'll get to those in a minute. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was caught some flack because she criticized the Jesus ads that ran. I actually thought they were lovely. I thought they were great. I thought that they were beautifully done. And she said, the ones that say Jesus gets us. Well, there were some new ones for the Super Bowl, a couple of different ones. And she said, Something tells me that Jesus would not spend millions of dollars on a Super Bowl ad to make fascism look benign. That was her take. And she apparently was triggered because they were talking about Jesus on nationwide TV. The great theologian AOC has spoken. Good Lord. To the phone lines we go very quickly. Dustin in Nashville. Dustin, you're on with Brian on the drive. So what was your take on all of that halftime nonsense?
I mean, my opinion is I think it looked like a bunch of little sperm cells running around.
That was an observation that was made by many. And she was dressed in red, and all of the little Oompa Loompas were in white. And there were a bunch of them. There were a ton of them. I will say the choreography, at least the Oompa Loompas, were in sync pretty well. But we really didn't need the grinding and the sexual stuff that was all a part of it, I don't think. Maybe I'm just hopelessly, an old fogey at this point. Mount Juliet, let's go to Joe. Joe in Mount Juliet, so the halftime show, with Rihanna. What was your take on it there, Joe?
Speechless. And another thing I had to comment on, what is the Black National Anthem all about? I thought we had just one national anthem, and that's for every color in America.
Well, I'd like to think so. That's the way I've always been raised, but apparently now, in woke America and the woke NFL, we have to have, we got to make sure that all, bases are covered, and we had to sing the Black National Anthem. Look, I don't have anything against the song itself, but I think a national anthem means it's an anthem for everyone. And I don't quite understand the need for this breakout anthem, but that's the way it goes. A pretty good game. The commercials I thought were pretty good. I wish I could tell you more about the one that I really liked, which was the woman who was on hold and had that on hold music. That really irritating music goes, and it's like, you've heard, I know you, if I played it if I could had it, you would know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's got this sort of echoey sort of synth drum in it, and everybody uses it. Everybody has apparently one, and all the systems in America, this comes pre-programmed in it.
Yeah.
And it goes, and it's like, I don't know, it's just a weird, but they started dancing. A couple started dancing to the, and it was hilarious.
What was the ad for? It couldn't have been that great of an ad. You don't even know what it was advertising.
I don't remember now that you say that, but that was some soft drink, I think.
Yeah,
because they were holding a can, I think. Yeah,
all right.
But one way or the other, I thought that was pretty cute. That made me laugh. And some of the others, Steve Martin was pretty good. The Will Ferrell ad was pretty good, I thought. But the ads this year, I wouldn't say that they were the best crop of ads I've ever seen. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. Let's talk about Sylvan Health and how they can help you out, especially if you have some of these conditions. Do you have high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol? Well, all of those things are connected to the food that you eat. And if you get the food right, you can actually control some of those situations. This is where Sylvan Health comes in. Sylvan connects you with a registered dietitian. They'll put together a nutrition plan for you without forcing you to cut out all the foods that you love. Your dietitian will provide food tools such as meal plans, shopping list, restaurant guides, whole 9 yards. A few small tweaks to your diet can go a very long way. Appointments are done via video calls or over the phone, so there's no need to travel. And here is the best part. This service is covered by insurance. That's right, 90% of patients have zero out-of-pocket cost. So why don't you schedule your appointment today? Here's the number, 833-279-5826. Or visit sylvanhealth.com. Sylvanhealth.com. That's SYLVAN health.com. Take that step toward looking and feeling better, utilizing the power of great nutrition. This is the music. How many times have you been on hold?
Oh, yes.
And you've heard this music?
Millions.
Well, apparently it was this commercial that was built around that music, and it was pretty cute, you'll have to say. It was Bud Light, by the way.
Yes.
They were dancing around to this music while they were on hold.
We thank you for your patience.
And then they went back to dancing. Pretty clever, well, the way it was done, the way it was edited.
Oh, it's got a French bulldog in it, too.
It had a French bulldog. It had a Frenchie in there. That's right. So another reason why I probably liked it a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these Super Bowls have become, things that are not only just football games. They've become cultural events. And because there's so many eyes on the screen, everybody seems to have an opinion about all things. And I do think it's become very woke, and I do think that there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown into there. And honestly, play some football so we can eat some wings and nachos and enjoy the silly commercials. And can we just take the all the other ancillary stuff out of it? I mean, do we need a black national anthem? Do we need to have everybody getting all up in your chili about, somebody who wanted to put in a Jesus commercial, and you have to find, some kind of issue with it. I don't know. The bottom line is, it seems like the more and more and more you get into these things, they become cultural issues. They become, and everybody has an opinion about the halftime, and everybody has an opinion about who sings the national anthem and what kind of job they did. For my money, I thought Chris Stapleton. I bet if Chris Stapleton and I were to sit down and have a conversation, it's just my sense of it. I don't know the man. I've never met him. But I have a sense that we probably would look at the world very differently. I'm just getting that opinion.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I mean, I've never heard him speak about his beliefs, but that's sort of my sense. I don't think we would look at the world in the same way. But boy, did I appreciate the job he did. Singing that national anthem in I thought it was a particularly amazing way. I don't know. 2024, very quickly. I'm going to hit you with three things that people are talking about. These are three stories. Now, remember, when I go to the Washington Post, why am I going to the Washington Post? Not because I like the Washington Post, but because sometimes it's fun to listen to what the Democrats are saying to each other. Biden appears set to run in 2024, but many Democrat voters have doubts. It's about his age. I think he's too old. Maybe that's a little ageist on my part, has said one voter, but I think he's too old. I worry about cognitive decline. I worry about a stroke, anything like that. Had a chance, let me just say, spoke with a young person, young when I say younger, in their 30s, and that's younger than me. And this particular young person does not follow, conservative talk or conservative media. This young person, who I dearly love and adore, probably gets her news from, mainstream media most of the time. And it was shocking to me, because I know this young person very well, and this young person was raised around people who were rather conservative. And of course, you grow up, you get your own ideas. But it was so funny to have that conversation about, this, that, and the other, the things that were going on, and how do you feel about this person? How do you feel about that person? And it was very clear that the people who just sort of absorb whatever the mainstream media is putting out there and get a lot of their news from social media have such a different view of the world than you and I do. It was very interesting. But anyway, and the reason I say that is because Ron DeSantis came up, and there was a divide at the table about how people felt about Ron DeSantis. But Democrats clearly realized they have a problem. By the way, here is Donna Brazile on the Sunday talk shows on ABC when she was asked about Kamala Harris. And, well, what happens to Kamala Harris? And she defended Kamala Harris, as you might expect.
So glad you brought up Kamala Harris, because she is probably one of the most undefined human beings. She is incredible. She's standing in her own power. She has been at every step helpful to this president and getting his agenda through the United States Congress. And so while her poll numbers may not reflect her true popularity, I can guarantee you Kamala Harris will not be replaced on the party's ticket.
There you go. She's says that she's all about the Kamala Harris. Tim Scott, rather, not Rick Scott. Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott, is said to be getting very close to making an announcement about a 2024 presidential bid. He's preparing, doing all the right things. And, South Carolina, an important state in the process. So it'll be interesting to see whether he pulls the trigger on that and goes forward. And it'll be interesting to see how Republicans react. I like Tim Scott. And I love the idea of a black conservative as a key figure in our party, for sure. And then there's the big fight over Trump and DeSantis. Who knows how that's going to get resolved? They're fighting, Trump more than DeSantis, but one way or the other. There is this story in the Washington Times. I bring it to your attention. I'm only pointing out what is being reported by others, that some major conservative campaign donors have made the decision that they will not be backing Donald Trump as he heads in the 2024 presidential election cycle. And of course, it takes money to run a campaign, even if you're a very rich man. 31 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Dr. Kevin Mitchell, my doctor. He could be your doctor. I'll be down there tomorrow, actually, going through my non-surgical spinal decompression. It's a great therapy. Has helped me so much with pain in my lower back. And if you're interested in finding out how this might help you with the pain that you're experiencing, here's what you need to know. Right now, you get half off for this month. Half off for non-surgical spinal decompression. No excuses now to accomplish your 2023 health goals. Get rid of your back pain at half the cost. No surgery, no injections, no addictive painkillers. And there's so many different things they can do there. And he's got a whole bunch of different kinds of therapies. But listen, it's a place to go. And it starts with a phone call, 615-246-5009. Again, 615-246-5009. If you go there, you'll see Dr. Kevin Mitchell. Your first consult is $23. That's an exam, consultation, x-rays, a look at MRIs if you bring them in. One way or the other, you'll meet with Dr. Kevin Mitchell and set up your plan. You might want to get introduced also to Dr. Ashley. She will be there. She brings a repertoire of knowledge ranging from nutrition, cold lasers, stress reduction, and most importantly, non-surgical spinal decompression. She's going to be there alongside Dr. Mitchell in the days ahead. So, get introduced. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com. "39 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson. I'm your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive. Listen on the air on our WTN app. Watch us on SuperTalk TV, on the Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch formats. All those things are available. Find today's show prep at yourfarb.com and find the link to Your Farb at 997WTN.com. The super text line always open at 615-737-9986. Love to have your real-time thoughts, and sometimes they're enlightening. Sometimes, it's your way to say, what a bonehead you are. So that's okay. We need to be kept in check. I was talking to my sister. That's her job. So I saw my sister this weekend and went down to see her. And I told her that I had come across a sign, and we tease pretty hard in my family. That's the way you show that you love someone is how you tease them. I don't know if it's particularly psychologically helpful, but that's the way we've always operated in my family. And so I tease pretty hard too, and sometimes people don't realize that I'm teasing. So I've learned to sort of back off sometimes. But anyway, I was telling her, I said, I saw this sign and I've decided that I'm going to make it my mantra. She said, what was it? It said, if you're in a situation and you don't find any joy, be the joy. I said, I'm going to start being the joy. When I find bad situations, I'm going to try to bring the joy. I'm going to be the deliverer of joy.
Wow.
And my sister said, when's that going to start?
You just took you right down a notch.
I know. That's it. And, she knows me too well.
Uh-huh.
Good luck with that, she said. Anyway, I don't know why I brought that up, but I thought it was so funny. But we are going to look at this right now, what's going on with all of this stuff with regard to the swamp. And let's just go ahead and, I got the button right here. Doesn't take me but a second to make this a swamp update. Everything happening in the swamp, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's get after it. James Comer is a guy to watch in the House of Representatives right now because he's in charge of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, and he's called for an investigation into the Secret Service. Now, this is a new and different thing. The FBI is going to be looked at, but what about the Secret Service? In an appearance on Fox and Friends on Monday, Comer described the Secret Service behavior as being bizarre. What does he mean by that? He says, well, there are numerous instances where the Secret Service came and tried to bail Hunter out when he was in a jam, when he was in California and getting into all kinds of trouble. getting kicked out of a very exclusive hotel there. The Secret Service showed up to try to see if there was some way they could get him back to Delaware, to his family, to protect him. And then with this gun application, there are reports that the Secret Service went and visited the gun dealer and wanted a copy of the application. Particularly concerning about these instances, Comer argued, was that they occurred during a period when Biden did not have Secret Service protection. Joe Biden received Secret Service protection 6 months after he left the vice presidency and the point when he declared for president. There was about a 2.5-year period where the American people weren't providing Secret Service protection to the Bidens, and there were numerous instances where the Secret Service always showed up to try to help Hunter Biden. That's very interesting. He concluded by asking the president to come forward and be transparent about that. A string of emails obtained by the conservative nonprofit organization Judicial Watch through a Freedom of Information Act request appeared to show one agent sharing an article from The Blaze about the Secret Service intervening in a case where Hunter Biden's then girlfriend threw the gun in a public trash can, according to the New York Post. Oh dear, one agent responded by email. Another agent, a Protective Intelligence and Threat Assessment Division specialist, wrote, "It's kind of odd that we were involved in the missing gun investigation when neither Hunter or Joe were receiving USS protection, United States Secret Service protection at the time. Maybe we were asked for a favor." Okay, so you're a former vice president. You can continue, I think, as a former vice president to get Secret Service coverage if you want it, but a lot of people elect not to have it, and they say, "I'll provide my own." I think Bill Clinton, when he left office, I know he kept it. I think Barack Obama, I don't know whether Barack Obama has an active detail or not, but it's a choice you make, and you can say, "I'm going to provide my own security," or I will accept the continued help of the Secret Service. But apparently Biden, was done. He was not receiving Secret Service. But he's got a problem with his son in California, right? So he picks up the phone and asks for a favor. "Hey, can you go by and check on my son?" That's not right. I mean, that's not right for them to be involved in that. That's not right for the Secret Service to do that. So this is going to be very interesting to see exactly how this all plays out. And again, here's another version of it from Just the News. Particularly focused on a 2018 incident in which Hunter Biden's girlfriend at the time dumped his gun in a trash can. There are numerous instances where the Secrets came and tried to bail Hunter out when he was in a jam, says Comer. New emails obtained. You got all that. Talked about that a little bit. Yeah, this is outside of regular service. The Freedom of Information request reportedly resulted in 487 pages of Secret Service records about the incident, in which then-girlfriend Hallie Biden, also his late brother's widow, left his .38 caliber handgun in a supermarket garbage can in the president's home state of Delaware. Comer also mentioned Secret Service visited the gun dealer and wanted a copy of the application. This, I think, is the one that comes under scrutiny because he said he was not under the influence of drugs when he got the gun, which, of course, we all know was not true. And the records are very clear on this. In another email, someone from the agency's Protective Intelligence and Assessment Division wrote, again, "Kind of odd we're helping him when he's not under our protection." How about that? 2.5-year period where the American people weren't providing Secret Service protection to the Bidens. Yet there are numerous instances where the Secret Service always showed up to try to help Hunter Biden. From the Washington Examiner, the FBI has faced a string of embarrassing failures in recent years by relying on shaky left-wing sources to take investigative actions, leading to Republicans arguing the Bureau has been deeply politicized. Well, I think we can all agree on that. Last week's saga in which the FBI quarters was forced to disavow a local FBI field officer's intelligence memo that sought to link a radical traditionalist Catholics with domestic terrorism was the latest example of the Bureau relying on questionable sources when pursuing high-profile and politically charged investigations. One wonders, I wonder if this is the case where you're in the FBI and you get a call from somebody in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, the FBI, the rank and file, not supposed to be political, not particularly involved in politics. I think we can all agree maybe at headquarters, very political, very involved in the political process, but the rank and file are not. But you get a call from the DOJ or the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they're asking you, hey, can you look into this? We think these people may be terrorists, and they begin an investigation. Well, the DOJ is political, very political, and U.S. attorneys are overtly political and appointed by presidents. So that I can see how that might happen. FBI has distanced itself from a local field officer's intelligence report that warned about an alleged connection between radically or ethnically motivated violent extremists and radical traditionalist Catholics. Oh, those Catholics. Goodness, you got to watch those Catholics. Again, I think it is true that there are a whole host of very identifiable incidents where they have relied upon very left-wing and very dodgy sources of information to back up what it is, I guess, they wanted to hear. I think they wanted to hear in Crossfire Hurricane, I think they wanted to hear, that there was Russian collusion between Trump and the Russians. They wanted to hear that. So they were listening to anybody who would bring forth such stuff. And I think time and time again, I know this. As a reporter, if I went to a source and the source turned out to be inaccurate, well, then I would come back to that source and say, what the hell, bud? You told me this and it's simply not true. And I have done that in the past. If I'm an FBI agent and I have a confidential informant, and that confidential informant turns out to have told me a whopper, you go back to that person and say, explain yourself. You're my confidential informant. You told me this, and it turns out not to be true. You were playing politics with the process. But that doesn't seem to happen in newsrooms around the country or at the FBI of late. And then this is a story that I'm going to recommend you go to yourfarb.com and find it. It's there under my swamp tab. Disinformation Inc. GOP slams government for funding a group blacklisting conservative news. And let me just read the headline or two here from it, a graph or so. Republican senators and representatives are raising concerns over the State Department's bankrolling of a disinformation tracking group that was secretly blacklisting and trying to defund conservative media outlets. The State Department has granted hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Global Disinformation Index, a British organization with 2 affiliated U.S. nonprofit groups feeding blacklists of conservative media to advertising companies, according to multiple Washington Examiner reports. Now, GOP members of Congress are slamming the government over this funding, which First Amendment lawyers have said appears quite troubling. It ought to scare everybody in this country, regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, that the government is involved in censoring speech, said Eric Schmidt, Republican of Missouri. The unholy alliance between government and big tech must be dismantled. And I recommend the rest of that article to your nighttime bedside reading. It is now 51 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Non-surgical spinal decompression treatments. I'm telling you, that's where I'm going to go through one tomorrow, and it's helped me a lot with my back pain. Right now, no excuses if you want to try this out. Your 2023 health goals can be met at half price. That's right, get the non-surgical spinal decompression this month at 50% off. No surgery, no injections, no addictive painkillers, only at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, where Dr. Kevin Mitchell is the doctor you'll see. He's my doctor, he'll be your doctor, and you'll see him each and every time you go to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You might want to, take advantage of the first consult if it's a new patient, $23 to get started. That's an exam, consultation, x-rays if needed. Dr. Mitchell will go over your condition, set up a plan of action for you. And I'm telling you, if you're like a lot of people that I run into, if you like me, you're going to find that you feel better pretty quick just by doing the things that Dr. Mitchell has laid out for you. Also, I hope you get to meet Dr. Ashley. She brings a knowledge of ranging from nutrition, cold lasers, stress reduction, most importantly, non-surgical decompression, so much more. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. Again, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. It's Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, bringing you news and information you can use on this, the 13th day of February, day before Valentine's Day. All right. You've been forewarned, guys. You got one day to swing by the Mapco and get some Mapco flowers. I mean, really, honestly.
Flowers are flowers, right? I mean,
flowers are flowers.
Hey,
doesn't matter where they come from.
as long as they're living.
Yeah, as long as they're not dead.
Yeah.
So get you some Mapco flowers and
maybe take the sticker off of it if it's got a sticker.
Yeah. I think nothing says Happy Valentine's Day better than a box of those little candy hearts that have the words on them.
Yeah, just make sure you get the right ones, because some of them have different kind of phrases on them that may not be
appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, it might be, but it might not be. So there you have it. Okay, now look, this hour. I am going to run through you. I mean, I have been spending an inordinate amount of time thinking about balloons and objects that we've been shooting down. I spent a lot of time looking at this today, and I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about seven cuts that I'm going to help you. I'm going to walk you through this, and we're going to come, I think, to some clarity about what this is and what it is not, as we work our way through it. If you listen to what people are saying, there are hints and clues among all this that give us an indication of what is going on. I think, if you'll just allow me, that this fits in very well to Wilson's first law of government. And it's my major corollary. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. My theory, my thesis on government has always been the following. Government does not act. Government reacts. I mean, they react when somebody looks around and says, oh my gosh, people are upset and we need to give them some answers. Oh my gosh, we're going to lose our cushy job.
We've got to protect our phony baloney job, gentlemen. We must do something about this immediately. Harumph, harumph.
So there's a lot of harumphing that goes on, and so when they act, then I think what normally happens is, I mean, I've seen it so many times, is that they overreact. And I think there's some of that going on right now. All right, so allow me to walk through all of the sound that I've collected here and see if you follow my theory and if you agree with it. It'll take a little while to play out here. First of all, this is not the best sound quality. I apologize for this. This is John Kirby today Admiral John Kirby from the White House briefing room. He just wants you to know what this is not. And he says, let's just rule out one thing.
I don't think the American people need to worry about aliens with respect to these craft, period. I don't think there's any more that needs to be said there.
Nothing needs to be said. There's no here. None of that. I mean, that doesn't mean that there aren't things out there that the military does not understand. The so-called unidentified aerial phenomenon, the go-fast stuff, the tic-tacs, all that, they still don't understand that. They don't have that figured out. But that is not this. All right, so if you've been thinking that this is the aliens, he wants to disabuse you of that notion. And okay, that's fine. It didn't feel like that way to me either. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is in Brussels for a meeting of military leaders, where I'm sure they'll be talking a lot about balloons. And this was his assessment upon landing in Brussels.
I want to be clear. The 3 objects taken down this weekend are very different from what we were talking about last week. We knew exactly what that was, a PRC surveillance balloon. And as we have said, we do not assess that the recent objects pose any direct threat to the people on the ground, and we will continue to focus on confirming their nature and purpose. We've not recovered any debris from the 3 most recent shootdowns. Our policy hasn't changed. We will evaluate each and every event on its own merits, and we'll make decisions based upon the recommendations of the NORTHCOM NORAD commander, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and they'll make recommendations to me, and I'll evaluate and make recommendations to the president. Again, these 3 events each of them presented a risk to safety of flight. And we don't know if they were actually collecting intelligence, but because of the route that they took, out of an abundance of caution, we want to make sure that we have the ability to examine what these things are and potentially what they were doing.
All right, so here's the headline out of that in my mind is, okay, Chinese spy balloon number 1 that we shot down over the Carolinas after it traversed the entire United States. That's a thing. And that was an intelligence gathering balloon. And we're going to find out more about that as we pull up the wreckage off the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. But the most recent 3 shoot downs were very different. They weren't at 60,000 feet. They were at, 25, 30,000 feet. In one of them case, it was 12,000 feet. So this was not that. They were smaller. And we need to separate the Chinese spy balloon from the most recent things. On the first one, let's focus for a moment just on the spy balloon. And here's what Admiral Kirby said from the White House today about China's programs and what they're trying to accomplish with their Chinese spy balloon.
We were able to determine that China has a high-altitude balloon program for intelligence collection that's connected to the People's Liberation Army. It was operating during the previous administration, but they did not detect it. We detected it.
Hold on. That is just, I'm sorry. I have to call you know what on that. We detected it. Well, the White House didn't detect it, and Admiral Kirby didn't detect it. The people who ultimately figured it out were in the Intelligence Committee or the Pentagon. Those people were around during Trump. Same people. Maybe the leadership has changed a little bit, but the people who figured it out were the same people there during Trump. So it wasn't like the Biden people were smart enough to figure this out, but those poor Trump people were dumb enough. It was the same people doing the analysis both days, both times. So, for him to try to say, well, we figured it out and they couldn't figure it out is just wrong.
We tracked it, and we have been carefully studying it to learn as much as we can. We know that these PRC surveillance balloons have crossed over dozens of countries on multiple continents around the world, including some of our closest allies and partners. We assessed that at this time, these balloons have provided limited additive capabilities to the PRC's other intelligence platforms used over the United States. But in the future, if the PRC continues to advance this technology, it certainly could become more valuable to them.
All right, so we're still talking about the Chinese spy balloon number 1. So, yeah, we have figured out that then this is what they're doing, and we'll get more on that after we pull it up off the Atlantic Ocean. But because now all of a sudden they got hammered, well, how come you didn't know about these spy balloons? How come, well, they went out there and they tweaked, if there's a best word I can use, they tweaked the radar systems. See, radar systems can be set up to look at, for the things that you consider a threat. What were they considering a threat? Well, normally very fast-moving objects, jets, bomber planes, missiles. And so their radar was designed to pick up things that are fast-moving at certain altitudes. They weren't even looking for things that were floating slowly. In fact, the systems are built to sort of filter that sort of out because, well, it's just distraction. We want to focus on the missiles. We want to focus on the planes. We want to focus on the bombers. That's the real concern. Well, no. And I think the Chinese figured this out. We can gently float a balloon in, and it'll go right through their systems unseen because they're not looking for it. Well, now, having had this embarrassing Chinese spy balloon thing, they adjusted the radar, and now they're looking for things that are moving slow. Moving at lower altitudes, moving at certain altitudes, and all of a sudden, doggone it, we're looking for a certain thing, and you know what? We found it. We found 3 examples of it, it seems, over the last couple of days.
In light of the Chinese balloon program and this recent incursion into our airspace, the United States and Canada, through NORAD, have been more closely scrutinizing that airspace, including enhancing our radar capabilities, which, as the commander of NORTHCOM and NORAD, General Van Herk, said just last night, may at least partially explain the increase in the objects that have been detected.
I mean, I think they're right. They're right about that. I mean, when you start looking for a thing, chances are you might find it. When you weren't looking for a thing, you didn't see it. Your systems weren't set up to see it. But now after you make the adjustments, well, son of a gun, there's stuff out there that meets the parameters that we're now searching for.
Slow-moving objects at high altitude with a small radar cross-section are difficult to detect on radar. Even objects the size of the Chinese spy balloon, which had a payload the size of roughly 3 school buses, were not picked up by previous administrations or other countries.
To put it another way, we are seeing more because we are looking for certain things we weren't looking for before, and now we're finding them.
One of the reasons that we think we're seeing more is because we're looking for more. As you heard General Van Herk mention last night, they have modified the filters and the gains, as we call it, of the radar capabilities to look more discreetly at high altitude, small radar cross section, and low speed objects. And so if you do that, anybody that's operated a radar will know you can set the parameters, and if you set the parameters in such a way that to look for a certain something, it's more likely that you're going to find a certain something.
Well, that's exactly right. So, okay, Chinese spy balloon shot down over the Carolinas, that's one thing. These other things, well, they're not very big. They're flying at different altitudes. They don't seem to have any kinetic ability. They don't seem to be much of a threat. It seems that the last 3 that have been shot down are something, less than impressive.
Because we have not yet been able to definitively assess what these most recent objects are, we acted out of an abundance of caution to protect the security, our interest, and flight safety. As we have said, we do not assess that these most recent objects posed any direct threat to people on the ground, and we are laser focused on confirming their nature and purpose, including through intensive efforts to collect debris in the remote locations where they have fallen. In each instance, we have followed the same basic course. We assessed whether they posed any kinetic threat to people on the ground. They did not. We assessed whether they were sending any communication signals. We detected none. We looked to see whether they were maneuvering or had any propulsion capabilities. We saw no signs of that. And we made sure to determine whether or not they were manned. They were not. We did, however, assess that their altitudes were considerably lower than the Chinese high-altitude balloon and did pose a threat to civilian commercial air traffic. And while we have no specific reason to suspect that they were conducting surveillance of any kind, we couldn't rule that out. That is why the President, at the recommendation of the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the NORTHCOM NORAD commander gave the order to shoot them down.
All right, there the order came. Because they were in airspace, not because they were a threat, not because we were concerned about them. One was said to be cylindrical. The other said to be octagonal. I mean, what are these things? Oh, I'll put it all together for him, put a big bow on it, and we'll get a description and some understanding of this last one we shot down over Lake Huron right after we take a commercial break. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. If you are at or nearing retirement, you've probably been saving and investing for a long time. But there are many things that factor into your retirement plan. Social Security, making sure you minimize your taxes, managing investments, risk healthcare, IRAs, pensions, Medicare, 401ks. All of these things need to be factored into your retirement plan. Overlooking any one of these could deliver a disastrous blow. That's why Beacon Capital Management offers you a free retirement plan checklist that covers things that are often overlooked by those that are nearing retirement. This free retirement plan checklist gives you a detailed overview of what is needed to help ensure your financial strategy is in place. So get your free retirement plan checklist by calling this number. You ready? Write it down, 615-488-9303. Again, 615-488-9303. You can learn more about all the things they can do for you at Beacon Capital Management simply by going to their website. Here it is, beaconcm.com. All right, so I spent the first part of the this hour explaining to you what's been said and how there's a difference between the Chinese spy balloon, the first one they shot down, and these others, which were smaller. Really, they're just like apples and oranges. They're not the same kind of things. And they had no kinetic ability. There are no antennas. They weren't manned, nothing like that. I mean, they were very small and flying at a much lower altitude. The one, however, that they shot down over Lake Huron was described at one point as being sort of octagonal, which is very unusual. And on the Sunday late night briefing that they did over the phone during the Super Bowl, this is what they had to say about that one.
I believe this is the first time within United States of America airspace that NORAD or United States Northern Command has taken kinetic action against an airborne object. So I'm not going to categorize them as balloons. We're calling them objects for a reason. Certainly the event off the South Carolina coast for the Chinese spy balloon, that was clearly a balloon. These are objects. I am not able to categorize how they stay aloft. It could be a gaseous type of balloon inside a structure, or it could be some type of a propulsion system. But clearly, they're able to stay aloft. I would be hesitant to and urge you not to attribute it to any specific country. We don't know. That's why it's so critical to get our hands on these so that we can further assess and analyze what they are.
All right, so what have we learned? We learned that they had the Chinese balloon, and then they adjusted their radars, and they started looking for balloons, and they started looking for slow-moving objects, and by gosh, they found a few of them, and immediately, well, we don't know what this is, and it's technically, it's in commercial airspace altitude, so we're just going to, out of an abundance of caution, we're going to shoot it down. We don't know what it was. When you start looking for a thing, it's funny how you find it, isn't it? You start looking under certain parameters, and all of a sudden, by gosh, son of a gun, there are balloons up there. But are these balloons, are they something that were always up there? Are these commercial balloons? Are they? I think, honestly, I really do believe that at least one of these balloons we're going to find out somewhere down the line is somebody's big practical joke. That everybody was paying attention to the Chinese balloon, which we should have. And they said, oh, let's put up our balloon and see what happens. And they get into their garage on a Friday or Saturday night and put something together and fill it up with helium and send it aloft. And they're chuckling because we just spent $350,000 for a missile to shoot down something they built in their garage. I really believe at least one of these is going to be that. Your government is overreacting. These other balloons are nothing much to worry about. They're not, I think, probably even from China. The Chinese balloon, we need to be serious about. The rest of them, an overreaction by your government. Because when you look for something, you're going to find it. And they looked for balloons, and they found balloons. But were the balloons always there? I think there's a pretty good chance that at any given time, if you look hard enough, you can find some balloons in the atmosphere. We send up, where did it come from? How long have they been aloft? Who knows? But I don't think they're anything to worry about. So, look, there are things that the government doesn't understand. There are UAPs that defy explanation. And yes, there are Chinese spy balloons, and these are things that our government needs to be focused on. But I'll just point this out. So Admiral Kirby comes to the White House briefing room, gives a big briefing, talks for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, answering every question about balloons. And when it came time for Karine to take over, and to be ready to answer questions about things like, I don't know, classified documents, Hunter Biden's laptop, whatever it is, she simply turned to the reporters and said, gotta run, we'll catch you tomorrow. It's a distraction. They are using this. They know that these last three are not much to worry about at all, but, everybody's freaked out about balloons, and we're talking about balloons, and I think it's just a way for them to change the topic. Look, I've never been much about this theory. Said, well, while we're talking about this thing, other things are happening, and we're not talking about them. Well, it is true that the media can't talk about two big stories at one time. It seems impossible. But if you know this show, the hallmark of this show is that we see the game about the bright, shiny thing, and we understand how they play that little game, and we're always scanning the horizon for that other story that they don't want us to talk about. There's some things out there that are about to hit the horizon with regard, maybe with Epstein's client list. We're watching for all that stuff. In the meantime, understand, I think the last 3 balloons, not much to worry about. I think they're using it as sort of a deflection to not talk about classified documents and all the other things that the Biden administration doesn't want to talk about right now. And I think they're happy to have it, happy to have that distraction. It is 31 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. It's 5:38 on SuperTalk 99.7. Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson. Hope you're enjoying the drive home tonight. We're going to get you home safely. You can listen on the radio. You can watch us. That's right. See a face made for radio right here on SuperTalk TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We're there for you. Find today's show's prep at yourfarm.com. Find the link to Your Farm at 997WTN.com. Text line is always open at 615-737-9986. In fact, having laid out my thesis about what we need to know about these dadgum balloons. Everybody's talking about balloons. And I've laid out my thesis that, we look at the Chinese balloon. We pay attention to that one. The rest of these things, we're going to spend millions of dollars to dig up something and find out that it wasn't anything to really be concerned about, it seems to me. I think that the last three shoot downs have been balloons that have been found in the atmosphere because, son of a gun, we adjusted the radar to look for balloons and we found some. I think that's all it is. By the way, no tracks today. Apparently all the errant trash balloons have been cleaned out of the upper atmosphere, and so we don't have anything else to think about. So what do you think about? What is that, do you think I'm barking up the wrong tree? Wilson, you're a bonehead. You don't know anything. 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-9986. To me, I think this was the soundbite that changed everything for me when they started talking about how they adjusted the radar after the Chinese balloon to find they were looking for things. Apparently, if you have the radar set a certain way, you can't see the balloons at all because they weren't looking for slow-moving things at that altitude.
One of the reasons that we think we're seeing more is because we're looking for more. As you heard General Van Herk mention last night, they have modified the filters and the gains, as we call it, of the radar capabilities to look more discreetly at high altitude, small radar cross section, and low speed objects. And so if you do that, anybody that's operated a radar will know you can set the parameters, and if you set the parameters in such a way that to look for a certain something, it's more likely that you're going to find a certain something.
Son of a gun, you look for balloons, you're going to find balloons if you set the radar right. 615-737-9986. Okay, so that you've got my take. Pay attention to the first one. Don't worry so much about the other three. Don't think they're going to be much. I think we spent millions of dollars to shoot down somebody's hobby project. That's what I think. Ricky in Watertown. We'll start with you. Ricky, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Ricky?
I wonder if North Korea ain't sending the latter ones.
Well, I mean, they don't do anything. I mean, that's the thing. Apparently, the whatever the objects are, they have no steering ability. They are not transmitting anything. They don't have any payloads. They're not manned, but obviously that's very much clear. So I don't know what would be the advantage of sending up balloons and let them float through the atmosphere, driven only by the wind.
They may have put something in them, knowing North Korea.
Well, okay. We got them. We got them off the coast of Alaska. We got them over Lake Huron. And, we got one in the Yukon Territory. And if that's true, we'll find out. I don't know. I just think this is a lot about nothing, honestly, these last three. Larry in Nashville, what do you say about this? Larry, you're on with Brian on the drive.
Yeah, I think it's all a bunch of BS. I think it's just a diversion to make people think they're doing their job because they didn't do it the first time.
Well, I think there's a part of that that's right, Larry. I do. I think that they like the distraction, and I think they realize, okay, we sort of got embarrassed by the first one, so let's make sure it looks like we're doing something. But I also think that the White House likes the distraction. I think right now they are. I don't think we're missing anything. I mean, I'm watching pretty carefully for that other story that's going underreported because the balloons are being overreported. I don't get that sense yet. But I think they love the fact that at the White House briefing room, they're talking about balloons and not Hunter Biden's laptop. They're talking about balloons, and they're not talking about, classified documents found near the Corvette. Tom in Lebanon. Let me get to the next guy. Tom in Lebanon, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Tom?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm fine. What do you think?
My thoughts are we should be shooting them down, but I think we're wasting a lot of money using these missiles. Why not shoot them down with 50 calibers? The AIM next Sidewinder missiles they're using cost between $200,000 and $400,000 per missile, and they could be shooting it down with 50 caliber bullets.
Well, you know what? I don't think they care. I think they say, we got them, we're going to use them. But you know what? I think I have heard this argument that if you shoot them down with put bullet holes in the canopy, for example, or the balloon or whatever they are, they say they're objects. I don't know. You do that, well, it becomes a little more uncertain where they will actually come down. And it may take a long time for them to deflate, and so they like shooting them down over a place where they feel like it's going to fall straight down into, well, in this case, Lake Huron, or ice north of Alaska, or into the practically non-populated Yukon territory. So I think that's why they do it. They smoke them with missiles to get them down quickly over areas where they feel like there's nobody's going to get hurt. I think that's what it's about. But I'm with you. It seems like a big expense. And I think some of it is a dog and pony show. But thank you for that. Appreciate it. Michael in Mount Juliet. Hello, Michael. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you think? What do you say?
Hello, Brian. Thanks for taking my call. I'm looking at this from a technical aspect, and I already got spanked by social media when I made a post when this was first announced that this thing could be carrying some kind of payload, may not just be spying, and I got shot down twice for making posts on that, that it could be carrying some kind of biological payload, for example, or somebody else alluded to later on this week that it could have been a radiological power, like a dirty bomb or something. I know people and friends that we launched balloons. I haven't, my friends have launched ham radio balloons into upper atmosphere just like those with little trackers on them, and we can track the currents and watch them go around the country. I've tracked a few with a signal that's called APRS. Just basically they're just up there to be able to track and have fun. So having balloons at high altitudes, I'm not so much worried about that, but a big one with that large of a capability probably carries more than just a spy camera. They can do better with satellites.
Apparently one of the things I hear, Michael, is that the advantage is, a balloon moves slow, a satellite moves fast. So a satellite won't be over a target very long unless it's in geosynchronous orbit, and generally they're not. And the other thing is that they went up and looked at the first Chinese balloon with a, what does it call it, a U-2 aircraft. So they got some pictures of it. They knew something about the payload. I think they looked at the payload and said it looks electronic to us, and I think if they had some other concerns about it, maybe they would have shot it down. But, okay, so you hit it with a missile. Doesn't the explosion pretty much cook whatever it is they might be sending? I don't know. It just seems like a stretch. And by the way, an act of war. And I don't think they're ready to have war with us just yet. Jim in Brentwood, you're up next on the Drive. What do you say, Jim? You're on with Brian on the Drive.
Hi, Brian. The thing that puzzles me, I get the point about slow down the radar, slow object moving, and so on. But where do these things come from? That they, if they're a balloon, I can't understand why they won't use the word balloon. Why are they so dodgy with the word object?
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it?
Here they are. Here we got three of them, saturating or otherwise showing up in an area that's monitored by NORAD, obviously. But it feels like they originated somewhat at the same time, or with some pattern, some deliberate wave, if you will. And then with this, what some of the other people were saying, why do they have to shoot it down with a missile, or why do they have to shoot it down at all? Other than the fact that there's a drama effect, no doubt about that. Nobody talks about Hunter anymore for a while. I get your point on that, but
yeah. Well, as far as why did they shoot it down? Well, their argument was the only argument they had for shooting it down, because it didn't seem to be any kind of kinetic threat. They said that right away. Didn't seem to have any payload that was transmitting anything, so they didn't really seem to be surveillance objects, whatever they were. But they did say that they felt like they were in commercial airspace, and that was their justification. I mean, I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what they're claiming. All right, Jim, thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it. Let me get one more in here. How about Darren in Columbia? Darren, good evening. You're on with Brian on the Drive.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my phone call.
You bet.
I keep hearing them talking about how they slowed down the radars to look for slow-moving objects. I do not buy that for a second. I don't believe anything that this man's saying, and I don't buy that for a second. I think our military looks for things slow and fast. I think they're just saying this as their excuse of why they missed the first one, which I think the first one was planned to go across the United States. Personally, I think they allowed it. And these three, I think we put them up there to shoot down.
You think we put them down up there?
I totally think we put them up there to shoot down just so we had something to talk about. To get everybody talking about something else. I think they're a distraction. I think you're correct on that.
Well, it could be. I will say this, that the first one, the one that was shot down over Lake Huron, this is interesting. They say it's difficult to track these things, even with the radar adjusted a certain way. They say it's really hard. And they had something over Montana. You may have heard people talk about it. Some people believe that something has been seen over Montana. Well, they did have a radar hit on something over Montana, but they kept losing it. And they couldn't lock in on it. It wouldn't stay locked in. And it was they believe, looking at the wind currents, because these things apparently don't have any independent way to move about, that the wind currents would have taken it over to where it was finally shot down, spotted again, and shot down over Lake Huron. So I think I can buy the argument that they're difficult to see, even when you've adjusted the radar to see things that are moving slow and to pick up on things that have a small cross section. I mean, these are not very big, we're told, and certainly not moving at a speed that normally would catch their attention. So I don't know. Take it. Everybody has an opinion. Some are like everybody's like belly buttons. Everybody's got an opinion. Some are innies and some are outies. And on that note, I'll quit. 51 minutes. 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk. Some are innies and some are outies. I thought it was funny. Assisted family care. Listen, let's talk about them. Maybe over the holidays you had a moment where you needed to hang with your family and you noticed that some of the elderly members of your family are really starting to lose a step. They just can't do the things they once did so easily. And you're thinking maybe they need a little help. Well, why don't you call Assisted Family Care? They will connect you with a responsible, compatible helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. And if your loved one happens to be a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years of experience in helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify for the benefit to get the benefit. Maybe you have a parent with wartime service. Caring for loved ones can be challenging, but Assisted Family Care can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com, assistedfamilycare.com, or call this number, 615-833-9725. You know, it was great being out at the Wilson County Home Show this weekend, out at the Busy Bee booth. I hang out with the giant bee, and I met a lot of people who came by to say hello. And you know what? While I was sitting there, I was talking to them. I said, hey, tell me about this thing that makes my water taste better. And they said, oh, we can install that in you. And you know what? Right now, on my driveway, there is a Busy Bee truck installing that system. Listen, whatever it is you need for your plumbing, for your heating, for your cooling, the folks at Busy Bee, they're the folks you want to turn to. You're not going to find a better value on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems. 12 months, same as cash. You might want to become a member of the Beehive Club. For as little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. One aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. Never overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. So remember, convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. Here's the number, 775-7833. 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. Good afternoon. It is 8 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is hour number 4 of the drive for Monday, the 13th day of February. And you know what? You're gonna wake up tomorrow. Guys, in case you haven't done the math, tomorrow will be the 14th of February.
What's that mean?
I don't know. Apparently, it's some kind of Hallmark holiday. But that's the way. No, I mean it's Valentine's Day, and I have my distinct feelings about Valentine's Day, but they don't matter because it doesn't matter. You still have to do something. You're required. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to point to the thing that. My birthday follows Valentine's Day.
Oh.
And I always say, everybody says, what do you want for Valentine? What do you want for your birthday? I say, I want to not have to think about February 14th.
Yeah, that's never worked.
That would be a gift to me.
Yeah, never worked, though.
Never works. Never works. Now, I think, I'm going to get off into trouble here, but I think that if you're in a relationship and you value that person, you don't show that just once a year because Hallmark decided that this was the day we should all spend a lot of money on to show how much you love the other person in your life. I mean, I think you should do that every day. I agree. And it's not a Hallmark holiday because there is something, St. Valentine's and all of that. There is a reason to have the holiday, but I mean, boy, the Hallmark people sure ran with that, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. And all the flower people and the chocolate people. Hey, here's the good news, though. Think about this. Your birthday is the best day of the year to buy candy.
Yeah,
the day after all the Valentine chocolate will be half price tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't looked at it in that way. Well, it doesn't matter because I stopped counting them about 10 years ago. But anyway, tomorrow is that day. So, I'm just saying, guys, it doesn't matter whether the flowers come from a fancy shop or from the MAPCO. It doesn't matter.
As long as she doesn't find out.
It doesn't matter. Well, I mean, you're going to leave the sticker on that says MAPCO? No, of course you're not going to do that.
You hope not, anyway. Yeah, the least you can do is peel that sticker off.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, you have been duly noted. It's duly been warned, and you can say, okay, duly noted as well. Thank you. I want to spend some time talking about, I guess I'll start out with talking about the situation at the border. The Biden administration, according to the Daily Caller, is now making it easier for illegal immigrants to roam the United States without having any tracking on them. So this is a very lengthy piece. You can find it at yourfarb.com. Find the link to YourFarb, but at WTN997WTN.com. Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, is employing methods to reduce the tracking of illegal immigrants released into the country. Well, why would you want to reduce the ability to track these people? Under the Biden administration, ICE has increased its reliance on a phone application that only knows the location of an illegal immigrant at certain times, while lessening its reliance on GPS monitoring, which tracks illegal immigrants at all times or most of the time, according to ICE data. What happens is the Biden administration is trying to move away from any form of serious monitoring under their ATD program, Alternatives to Detention, and to instead use this program as a way to provide services to illegal migrants to make them more comfortable while they're here. Director of Policy Studies for the Center of Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughn, told the Daily Caller News Foundation. Immigration and Customs Enforcement are quietly adopting a model for tracking illegal immigrants that's becoming less restrictive, a Daily Caller News Foundation investigation has found. ICE's Alternatives to Detention program been in place since 2004. They allowed to track those awaiting a years-long court proceedings, not in physical detentions, using GPS monitoring, phone applications, and other forms of technology to track illegal immigrants released into the interior of the U.S. in recent years. However, in recent years, the program has relied on less restrictive and more expensive technology according to ICE data and experts and foreign and current government officials who spoke to the Daily Caller Foundation. In fiscal year 2019, ICE was tracking 55,918 illegal immigrants using GPS monitoring and 5,706 using something called SmartLink, which is a phone application that only knows the location of a participant if and only when they check in periodically. In fiscal 2020, the agency was tracking 36,647 immigrants using GPS and 18,000 using the SmartLink app. So in other words, the number of people using the app has gone up. The number of people using actual GPS tracking devices has gone down. And it continues in that trend, as you might imagine. What's happening is the Biden administration is trying to move away from any form of serious monitoring and use this program as a way to provide services to illegal migrants to make them more comfortable while they're here. This is not an enforcement program at all. It's a social services program for recently arrived illegal immigrants. It is costly to taxpayers. It's undermining the integrity of our immigration system. It's, in effect, the next step of giving all of these illegal arrivals parole, making it easier for them to get in and making it easier for them to stay. They come for parole. They stay for the wraparound services. So they check in on the app, and the app says, oh, by the way, what do you need in the way of services? Here are all the things available to you from the federal government while you're here illegally. Oh, thanks. Thanks. It's just irritating as hell, isn't it, that this is going on? You know, I was talking to someone about the border situation over the weekend, and I was talking about, do you understand that, you know, that there are like 150 different countries, people from 150 different countries have come to the United States and have come here illegally from the border and are checking in. And it's not just people in Mexico and Central America or even South America anymore. It's people from all over the world. Listen to this. Border Patrol agents stationed at the U.S.-Mexico border saw an astounding increase in Chinese citizens arrested attempting to enter the country illegally in January compared to a year ago. In January of 2020, federal law enforcement agents apprehended 80 illegal immigrants who were citizens of China. Last month, agents captured 1,064, a 1,230% increase year over year. Half of all Chinese arrests this year, 528, were made in southeastern California's El Centro region, one of the 9 sectors designated by the federal government. Historically, Border Patrol in and around El Centro has not made a high number of drug or human smuggling busts compared to other regions, such as the Del Rio Valley, or the Rio Grande Valley or the Del Rio in Texas. Since the government's fiscal year began on October 22, the Border Patrol agents across the 2,000-mile southern boundary have arrested 2,926 Chinese citizens. And you compare that to about 309 in the first 4 months of the previous year. Why are Chinese people coming to America illegally? Why is this happening? What is the purpose for this? And, that's a very good question. I mean, we continue to look at the southern border, and I'm shocked, stunned, and amazed that there are many, many people. Again, this was part of the conversation I had this weekend with people who don't follow conservative talk radio and don't follow, conservative media or social. They're getting most of their stuff off social media. I mean, I wouldn't say low information voters, but just getting their information from other places. And they have these very strong opinions about this, that, and the other. And especially, the southern border situation. And I started talking about, how many people are coming across the border illegally and what the ultimate plan is. And this is really where it just sort of gets really crass to me, what's going on here. People are coming across the border. We don't know who some of these people are. Maybe as many, since this whole thing started in the Biden administration, as many as 2 million people who had absolutely zero contact with the Biden administration or with the ICE or Border Patrol because they were known gotaways. We knew they got in. We saw them on the cameras. We noted them on the sensors. We couldn't get to them. They come waltzing right in. We don't know who these people are. We have no idea who these people are. We know that of those who have come in contact with Border Patrol or ICE, that about 138, I think it is the last number I saw, 138 of them were on the terrorist watch list. How many people came across as gotaways who were on the terrorist watch list? And we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what they're up to. We don't have any idea. And so it's a national security disaster. It's a humanitarian crisis of the first order. It is a human trafficking crisis. It is the fentanyl coming across that is killing 100 people a day in America is coming across that border. And it's all because of what? Because the Biden administration wants as many people to come in as they possibly can so that one day when they find a pathway to citizenship, they'll be Democrat voters. They're doing it for political purposes, and they are putting this nation at risk in order to get more people who will eventually vote Democrat. It's all political, absolutely 1,000% political, and nobody seems to get upset about this. Beyond, people who, listen to our show and watch Fox News. People are just not aware of what's happening and all the things that are connected to this wide open border. Because I'm telling you, if you don't watch Fox News, and if you don't listen to certain, conservative talk radio, or if you don't listen to certain websites where they're talking about this issue, and we're not making it up, we're not out here, trying to make something up. We're telling you what's going on, but nobody else is talking about this. In their world, they're not hearing it. It's like silence. And when I started laying out, basic facts in numbers and statistics about where we are, you could just see them go. You could see on the look on their faces. They had never heard that before. It's shocking. What? I hadn't heard that. Didn't know. Facts are stubborn things. But if you're not hearing the facts, then, you're not aware. And there's a tremendous number of people in this country who are simply not aware of what's going on down on the border. Shocking, stunned, and amazed. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Let me talk about Grace Point. They deliver medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you'll know how much it costs before the care is actually delivered. They're best known for their smart care plans. For just $69 a month, you get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. They have an upgraded smart care plan where you can actually add a couple of things like, a couple of home visits every year. They actually do that. Now, you marry this with your high deductible insurance plan. This will save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. At Grace Point, they see you the same or next day. At Grace Point, they have no long wait times or crowded wait rooms, and they treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted best primary care provider by Toasted Music City year after year after year. Grace Point wants you to know they believe strongly in freedom of choice when it comes to vaccines for you and your family. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. 26 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Good evening on this 13th day of February. I am Brian Wilson, and happy to have you with us as we get you home late in the evening. I hate to do this to you but I mean, I need to point out that there's so much woke news out there.
It's a woke world after all.
Everybody!
It's a woke world after all.
Yes!
It's a woke world after all.
It's a woke world. And we can't have too much of that because it sticks in your head. And
it's too late. I mean, just the first 3 notes, and it's already in there.
I actually, that's from It's a Small World After All. If you ever go to that thing, you literally, and I've gone. I took with my daughter. I took her to Disney World, and we went to It's a Small World, and and literally that tune stays in your head all day long.
I remember thinking as I'm on the little boat, I'm trapped. I can't get out of here. And that was the longest, like 3-5 minutes, whatever. It felt like hours to me.
I know.
Yeah.
It just is
terrible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it is a woke world after all. The new communications director, Kate Bedingfield, was the White House communication director, and she, I think a while back, she said, "I'm out of here. I've had enough of having this man butcher my speeches." And she said, "I'm going to leave." And then he talked her into staying, and so she decided to stay. But now she says, no, I really have got to go. And so it's Kate Bedingfield, White House communication director, out. And in her place is a guy named Ben LeBolt, a veteran press advisor to former President Barack Obama. When White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre announced that Bedingfield would leave the White House at the end of February and be replaced by Ben LeBolt, she made a point of saying this is a history-making news. According to KJP, it's important for everyone to know, this is from hotair.com, that Ben LeBolt is an openly gay man. The Biden administration is all about representation, you see, and LeBolt is further proof of that. They're very well. We got to have a gay person as communication director. Well, okay, look, I don't care that Ben LeBolt is gay. I heard his name around town when I was there in the Obama years. I never thought twice about it. I didn't know if he's gay, straight. I don't care. I just don't care. What I care about is, are you picking this person because they're gay? Because if you look at Karine Jean-Pierre, it seems like they picked her because she was gay and she was black. And they didn't pick her because she was a particularly good press secretary and could actually put a sentence together. She's horrible. Now, I mean, I run the risk of being attacked for saying that Karine Jean-Pierre is a horrible press secretary. Well, you just don't like gay people. You don't like black people. No, I don't like people who can't talk if they're the press secretary. Can't put a sentence together. Wouldn't you all have felt a little better if they said, we're hiring Ben LeBolt because he's the man for the job and he's got great experience and we're just sure that he's going to be a great communications director? Yeah, because that's what you should be doing your hiring based on. But not in the Biden White House. It's all about, which box you can check. Oh, we had an empty box. Okay, we can check the gay box again. Hot dog. We can check the transgendered box. We can check the black gay box. We can check all these boxes. I don't care. What I care about is, are you the best person for the job? In the Biden administration, that's equity. See, that's equity. That's the difference between equality and equity. They don't care about who's the best person for the job. They care about making sure they check the equity box. 6:30 now on SuperTalk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Let's talk about McGill's Glock store. You know, when Cabana Wife and I went to the Glock store, I thought I'd be the one that'd be the top dog putting the rounds downrange. And, well, I was quickly disabused of that notion, because she showed me she was the much better shot. But, you know, I had a great time training with her. It was a lot of fun. And if you and your significant other want to enjoy a couples training session, this is the month to visit the world-famous Glock store. During the month of February, your significant other trains with you for free with your paid range session. And that's not all. If your significant other is thinking about a handgun of their own, all couple sessions come with a free handgun rental to help you choose the perfect weapon. That's right. During your sessions, you can try out as many of their huge variety of rental handguns with or without optics as you want. What a deal that is. How can you go wrong? To book your February couple session, simply go to shoot270.com and click on Book a Shooting Session. Here's the number, 615-682-6565. That's 615-682-6565. Only at McGill's world-famous Glock store, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We got about 22 minutes to go until we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. I'm Brian Wilson. Listen to The Drive on the air using that quaint technology known as radio. What a concept. You turn on the radio and you tune it to 99.7 on your FM dial. I mean, people don't have a dial anymore. Hit the FM button, and then you'd go to 99.7, and there we are. And then if you have one of those buttons on your radio that you continue to allow you to tune to other stations, you simply take it off at this point and put it in your glove box.
Yeah. Don't throw it out the window. I may have said that in the past. Probably not the best idea. You
Just
might
put it
wanna,
in your glove. You don't need it.
You might want to trade that car in one day, and they'll frown upon it if the knob is missing. So just put it away for now.
Just put it in the glove box. It'll still be there, right?
That's right.
Right with that thing that you need to get your tires off. What are that special adapter?
A little key.
Yeah, whatever. So there, do that. And then, if you want to watch us, we have this other new technique. It's shiny, brand new technology that we call SuperTalk TV. It's compelling.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it's compelling. Compelling television. Having done compelling television, I would say no, not really. But, I mean, if you want to see us and see what we're doing, the faces that we make behind the scenes, and the histrionics that go on. Sometimes there are histrionics.
Histrionics.
Yes, I mean, I'm going, no, don't do that. And it's worth watching. And sometimes we have secret code that Chris and I have. We give signals, like at a football game. We have secret signals we give to each other. You'll be and know all of that stuff if you're watching on TV.
Or you'll be like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
that's weird.
I mean, last week, honestly, was this beautiful moment where we were doing a thing, and I mentioned, we're talking about the balloon being a Sputnik moment, and I mentioned going in that if you don't know Sputnik, well, you need to go see the old movie tone news of the day Sputnik flew over America and how America reacted. And so I went on to tell the story and play the sound bites from today, and all behind, I could see the scene behind the scenes. Chris was working to get the Sputnik sound ready. And then we were sending signals, hand signals back and forth to each other. And at the end of the soundbite, I stopped, and in came the movie tone news version of that story from 1960-something, 1950-something.
That's how it's done.
And we all, I said, people who saw that on our, what we call SuperTalk TV, well, they were shocked, stunned, and amazed of it, just how smooth that was.
Yeah.
But if you're listening on the radio, it was like you didn't know that we didn't plan it that way.
That's right. You thought, they knew what they were doing.
But we did it, and people saw it. So, that's the advantage of this new technology that we have. And I look damn good on TV. Let's just to be honest about it.
Okay.
Today, I've noticed that when I wear a hat, like I got a ball cap on today, I almost always have it a little off to the side.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Why is that? I don't know, because it feels comfortable that way. So I'm trying to straighten up my cap.
Yeah.
Make sure my glasses are level.
Yeah, that's perfect right there.
And and I'm just wearing a sort of a hoodie thing today. James Comer. This is what we need to talk about. James Comer, the Republican congressman from Kentucky, who's the chairman of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, is ready to ask. You think, okay, they're going to be talking to the FBI. Well, yes, they're going to be doing that, but I mean, this one is actually aimed at, believe it or not, the Secret Service. And an appearance on Monday described what he called the Secret Service's weird, bizarre behavior. Listen to this. I wasn't aware of this. There are numerous instances where the Secret Service came and tried to bail Hunter Biden out of trouble when he was in a jam, like when he was in California and getting in all kinds of trouble, getting kicked out of a very exclusive hotel there. It seems the Secret Service showed up to try to see if there's some way they could get him back to Delaware or to his family. And then there was this incident with the gun application where he, went and got a gun, and apparently lied on the application about being under the influence of drugs. And the Secret Service actually went and visited the gun dealer and wanted to get a copy of the application so they would have a record of it. If they have a record of it, why hasn't he been charged with anything? I just curiously want to know. What is really weird about all this, Comer argued, is that this all occurred during a time when Biden was not under Secret Service protection. Biden received a Secret Service protection 6 months after he left the vice presidency, and then at the point when he declared he was going to run for president. So for about 2.5 years, he was not under Secret Service protection, and yet there are numerous instances where the Secret Service showed up to try to help Hunter Biden out. It's very bizarre. Why were they doing that? He concluded by asking the president to come forward and be transparent. It's almost as if he called the Secret Service up and said, I need a favor. Well, the Secret Service is not your private security detail if you are not under their protection. Unbelievable that he was able to get all this help for Hunter, intervene in Hunter's, complete devolvement in California, and that they were getting involved, I guess, at the behest of the former vice president at the time, in a time when he was not under Secret Service protection. Not the best use of taxpayer dollars, it would seem to me. Why was the Secret Service getting involved when they weren't officially protectees? That's a great question. That's a fabulous question. I'd like to know the answer to that. James Comer is going to hold hearings to try to find out about all that. The story goes on to talk about FOIA requests that were made and resulted in 487 pages of Secret Service records about certain incidents. In one, then girlfriend Hallie Biden, also the late brother's widow, left his .38 caliber handgun in a supermarket garbage can. Comer also mentioned reports the Secret Service visited a gun dealer and wanted a copy of the application. And another email from the agency's Protective Intelligence Assessment Division, somebody wrote, it's kind of odd we're involved in a missing gun investigation when neither Hunter or Joe were even receiving USS protection at the time, United States Secret Service protection at the time. How about that? 2.5 years. The American people were not responsible for providing Secret Service protection, and yet, time and time again, the Secret Service is called to show up and help Hunter Biden. Secret Service is supposed to be there to protect our president, our vice president, and members of their family, from harm. But they often get turned into sort of like a private police force, it seems. I remember a time when I was a local TV reporter, and I think it was Clinton. Clinton was in office. And I got word through a reliable source that the uniform division of the Secret Service, the people who normally guard the gates around the White House, that a whole busload of them were going through dumpsters in a certain part of town late at night, going through dumpsters. And I thought, well, that's very strange. What are they doing? It's not at the White House. It was in a particular neighborhood. They were going through dumpsters looking for something. And then what I found out was that it was a member of the White House counsel's office who had apparently been stopped at somebody's house for, I don't know, to say happy birthday or to go to a party or a social event. And they left their White House documents in the car, and somebody broke into the car and stole a gym bag that had all these sensitive White House documents. And so their response was not to call the police, but to call their own private police force down to this neighborhood so they would look to see, well, maybe somebody threw the bag in a dumpster or something. And they were, until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they were going through every dumpster in the area. It was very strange. And I came in, I reported that the next morning, and then they came up with some kind of cover story as to what they were doing. And well, there was nothing sensitive there. Yeah, there was. And they've never come clean on that one for sure. Okay, so what else have I got for you? Oh, this, I think we'll close out on this. Looking at 2024 and how people are running and what they, what is being said about their potential in 2024. First of all, whenever you hear me quote the Washington Post, it's because we're listening to Democrats talk to themselves, right? Washington, as President Biden prepares for an expected re-election bid, Democrat leaders are increasingly enthusiastic about his candidacy, but many of his party voters are not on board. In other words, a lot of leaders are now out there, yeah, he can do it. Yeah, he can make it. Yeah, he'll do it. And by the way, we love Kamala. There's no doubt about that. We love Kamala.
So glad you brought up Kamala Harris, because she is probably one of the most undefined human beings. She is incredible. She's standing in her own power. She has been, at every step, helpful to this president and getting his agenda through the United States Congress. And so while her poll numbers may not reflect her true popularity, I can guarantee you Kamala Harris will not be replaced on the party's ticket.
That's Donna Brazile. She's a big activist in the Democrat Party. She said, no, we love Kamala. We love Biden. And they're going to, so everybody's in line now. Even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez the other day said, I'm going to support the president's bid for re-election. But out there in the real world, they're getting a lot of blowback from people who say, you know what? I just don't think this is a good idea. Be interesting to see how that all plays out. 49 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk. Why shop at D.T. McCall's? Well, one of the things that you're going to find is a huge selection of appliances, furniture. I mean, anything that you need for your house, you're going to find it at D.T. McCall. They have a great selection to choose from. I found that was very helpful when Cabana Wife and I went over to buy furniture at D.T. McCall's. I mean, we were looking for a big sofa. I mean, I wasn't sure we were going to, because our styles, our senses of style are a little different. I wasn't sure we're going to be able to come to agreement, but you know what helps that? Finding a big selection to choose from. And we immediately found exactly what we were both looking for, and it was a good thing. Free delivery. How many times have you purchased an appliance and paid extra for the cords and the hoses, paid extra for delivery, paid for the haul away? Not such a good deal when that happens. D.T. McCall's, you get free delivery, free setup, free haul away. It's a family-run company, been around for more than 100 years, and you don't get to do that unless you have a reputation for treating people right. And whenever possible, D.T. McCall's sells products that are made and manufactured right here in the volunteer state of Tennessee. For example, England furniture. Actually, not made in England at all. It's made right here in Middle Tennessee. Mattress line exclusive to D.T. McCall's, also made in Tennessee. 5 convenient locations. Find out all the things they can do for you just by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for listening to The Drive. We'll be back here tomorrow for another exciting edition starting at 3 o'clock. Hope you'll join us then. Have a good night, everybody. But before I go, let me tell you about the folks over at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. I'm talking about Dr. Pause. I mean, is your sleeping partner giving you the sharp elbow in the middle of the night? Have you been relegated to sleeping on the couch? Well, why don't you do something about it? Set an appointment with Dr. Stephen Foss at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. 2 locations for your convenience, one in Brentwood and one in Murfreesboro. So he can make you a customized FDA-approved mouthpiece, proven effective in treating mild to moderate cases of sleep apnea. I mean, I know you tried the CPAP machine. Why not try this solution instead if it's not working for you? Set up an appointment with Dr. Foss, and here's what Julie said will happen. Her husband got his mouthpiece and basically stopped snoring at night. Our bedroom is much quieter, she says. I'm sleeping so much better. He's sleeping better. It's been a win-win situation for us. Start getting a good night's sleep, feel more energized during the day. Contact the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. Here's the number, 615-850-8445. Learn more at drposs.com.